OCI, Orange County Inspections, is glad to present the Quality Control and Quality Assurance Professional Seminar, segment number 10. In this segment, we will cover the shop drawings. And the items that will be reviewed are the basic steps and tools required for using and navigating the shop drawing, with the following being reviewed: the different views, how grid points are used, information for both the project and structural steel members, while we close with both the general and specific details. Second item is the column used for the project, where we break down the vital steps in locating the section view cuts that open up the needed details for information to assist in the fabrication and installation procedures. The third item follows on the heels of the column, and that is the beam, where all the above mentioned information is covered, plus dimension and alignment illustrations are exposed for proper compliance with the approved design drawings. And the last item are the metal deck shop drawings, where the drawing styles are similar, but as you will see, there are a few callouts that you, the QC and QA professional, should know to observe the proper installation of product. The basic tools and steps needed for using and navigating a set of shop drawings are the same we covered earlier in the seminar when dealing with this design set of drawings. Here is a plan view of the project, and there are three different views that are used for finding the location or answers. Those will be the plan view, like a bird flying over the project and looking down upon it. Next is the cut view, which cuts a wall or floor in half, and as we stand on the detail line, we are looking the way the arrow is pointing. And if no arrow is present, you could be looking either way. And lastly is the elevation view. It has you standing in front of a wall or beam, looking from the bottom to the top of the subject, and that subject will have grid points, allowing you to find your place on the project with use from the plan view sheet. Now, with the plan view, we find the shape of the building, which resembles a rectangular of sorts. Next are the grid points, and you will find either numbers or letters running horizontal, then the opposite running vertical, and where they cross each other is the grid point. Let's move around the plan view sheet and point out the key points that will provide tons of information. And first we start with this box area. This is a page callout, first floor framing plan sheet. Next is the TOS, or also known as the top of steel elevation for this floor. And what does UN stand for? No, not the United Nations, but unless noted elsewhere. Here is a small legend box for you. The C stands for the amount of camber induced in the beam at the shop. And lastly, we find a few notes for the metal deck supplier. Notice a reference call out back to the design drawings. Here we see the project and sheet information box. The first arrow shows the box for the latest revision or change order number and the date of their approval. With the second arrow, we find a box for the subcontractor's information that these shop drawings are for. Here is the project information box, plus notice the job and sheet number for these shop drawings. Okay, let's slow down here. And if this is the only tip you get from this whole seminar, it could be worth $1 million of your dollars. This is the sheet reference call out back to the approved design drawings. You must always cross-reference the shop drawings with the approved design drawings. Many QC and QA professionals have found themselves in hot water with the authority having jurisdiction for believing, since the shop drawings have been stamped approved, that it means they override the design drawings, and that is just not true. So once again, cross-reference the shop drawings with the design drawings, and if any confusion arises, just place a call to the authority having jurisdiction for guidance. We move to the top right of the sheet to reveal the compass for the project. With the compass, it shows two different items. First is the true north for the project, and what is north for the set of plans. And a quick tip for you is that if the compass is not provided, the north will always be to the top of the sheet. Sliding down the sheet, we will look at these clouded boxes. Usually a clouded area means it's a change order or revision to the drawings, but in this case it's being used to alert everyone to a special situation. And with the first clouded box, it's asking for verification of the area where concrete planter boxes will be placed. And the next is alerting all involved to verify all clouded dimensions. And lastly are these line items that hold a lot of information. The first section of line items are for the field erection of the structural steel members. With the first arrow, it reveals where the piece mark of each member should be located when set in place out in the field. Next arrow indicates a symbol for the moment frame members. The arrow pointing at number 4 is another symbol we have seen before, representing the SSDA connections found on the moment frames. Next arrow at number 5 shows a seismic beam connection symbol. After that, the arrow is at the top plate drag connection symbol. With the last arrow revealing the moment connection symbol. And lastly, we see a series of numbered items asking to view other sheets for information on items such as the field welding, base plate washers, column splices, and brace connections. We move to the next box of the line items. Here we see its special notes for the field erection of typical moment frame beam to column connections. The first arrow is at the area for the field erection procedures during construction. Next arrow shows more special condition notes for the SSDA beam to column connections. And lastly are the moment frame notes for this project. Now we will review the general details used for the structural steel, and you will see they resemble the details for steel in the approved design drawings, but do not forget what we discussed earlier. Here is the first page that provides detail for the different cases that are found on the project. The star shows the detail for plate washers being welded to the column base plate, and notice the field flag on the weld symbol. Next are 3 details that cover the welding of column splices, both moment frame and non-moment frame. The box reveals the details used for welding the moment beam to both the moment column flange and web. Can you see the continuity plates? The star here shows details for both beam to column connection for bolts and the drag cord connections found on the top flange. The curved line underlines the non-moment beam to non-moment column connections and a beam to beam connection. While lastly, we see the diagonal bracing detail. We move to the second page of general details, and we come to the detail covering the SSDA beam to column connection. And we see the title call out, which has you referencing back to the approved design drawings. Next is the elevation view of the connection. There again, notice the continuity plates at the top and bottom beam flanges. We see here the beam schedule, which provides the fillet weld size required to connect the shear clip to beam and the no weld zone found on the beam flanges. And lastly, with this detail are notes specifically for this connection. Next, we see the option for a beam bearing at a concrete wall. Now we come to the last page of the general details, and we see the first two details will cover the moment columns and specifically the doubler plates that are required at the mid-height and also at the top of the column. Remember, a doubler plate is found within the column on the face of the web at the beam connection. The next two stars cover the column splices when either the flange thickness is less than or greater than 2 inches. And lastly, a heads up again about the required code for compliance with this project, which requires compliance with FEMA. And remember, there are the federal government divisions that regulate the seismic design for buildings. We move to the second item of this segment, which is the column found in the shop drawings. Once again, looking at the first floor framing plan, we will focus on this area for a closer view of the column in the discussion. As we see the area closer, first, this is the column we will break down. And here is the important call out for this column, which reveals the size W14 by 665 and piece mark number 1003A. Here's a typical sheet for the column found in the shop drawings, and at first glance it's pretty intimidating with lots of lines and dots all over the place. But let's break things down to help you understand how to use this sheet for finding the information. The arrow points to the column call out. Here we see there is only one column for this sheet, even though it seems like there are three, but we will break all that down in a minute. Next, the piece number is shown also, and that should match the number back on the plan view sheet. If not, there must be some investigation prior to production of the column. And here is the actual column elevation from the base plate to the top of the column. This sheet reveals any and all plates, welds, and bolt holes, etc. required for this one column. Now, the two stars reveal an important cut view. They open up the column web, which is found here. This is the middle image of the column, which shows the base plate to the top of the column, plus how the connection plates are welded and all dimensions found along the web. Next, we show how the image of the column on the left side works hand in hand with the middle image. The star is on the connection plate coming at us, which is this plate on the side elevation view of the column. Does that make sense? Okay, let's try that again. The star is on the connection plate coming at us, which is this plate on the side elevation view. Now, we will show you how these details come into play with the elevation views of the column. We see the lowest cut view symbol, which is this detail that looks down on the column at that elevation. Moving up the column in height, we come across these two cut view symbols, which is this detail, again looking down on the column. We keep moving up and see this cut view symbol, and here is the detail provided. Again, up a little higher with this detail. And lastly, at the top is this symbol, which is this detail. The last area, which provides a huge amount of information, is the bill of material box found here. A closer look at the bill of material reveals once again a lot of information, but let's review step by step. First, we see the piece mark number column, and notice the first line item is this column number, which once again should match both the elevation callout on this sheet and the plan view sheet. Now, we see many other piece mark numbers, and you might wonder how to use them. Okay, here is a closer look at a section of the column elevation view. And notice for this connection plate, there is a piece mark number of P2396. So, if you were in the shop, this plate is welded to the column and would have this piece mark number written on it. Next, we see the continuity plate, and once again the number is P1924, which should also be written on the plate for compliance. And lastly is the connection plate found on the other side of the column with the number of P2356, and the identification marking should be there too. The thread that ties these three examples together is that they will be found on the bill of material box under the piece mark number column. If not, once again, some investigation is required. Moving on with the review of the bill of material box, the next column is the quantity of the material. Here we see the width and thickness of the material. Now is the material length is given. A remarks box is provided for any special notes. We find a steel grade column after that. In this area combines the subcontractor's notes and individual weight of material. Okay, before we move on, notice the weight of the column after fabrication. It weighs 28,480 pounds. Wow. Don't let that fall on your foot. We move into the third item of this segment, and that is the beam. We take the same area as before, and we see the beam that connects into the column we just reviewed. Its size is W36 by 210, and the piece mark number is 1374A. As we move to the sheet that covers the beam, first we see the arrow is at the beam callout that reveals again just one beam for this piece mark number. Then here is the actual beam with an elevation view. Then we see this view of the beam, which the arrow is pointing the way the image above is looking. Moving to other important detail cuts within the sheet, we see this detail number 1 callout, and here is the location of that detail. Next, we see this section cut symbol, like we've seen on the column sheet, and here is where we find the detail. Now notice how right next to the first section cut view we find another section cut view with the detail being found up here. We move to the bill of material box here in the upper right corner of the sheet, and it's identical as the column bill of material, with piece counts and markings matching the callouts on the sheet, plus material dimensions, type, and weight. And we close the beam sheet with some additional notes for the beam fabrication. We now move into the fourth item of this segment, which we will cover, the shop drawings for the metal decking. Here's a typical sheet for the metal decking, and like most drawings, they are built typically the same way as design drawings. We start in the top left corner and find the general note box, which covers typical items having to deal with the installation of the metal decking. As we move down the sheet, we find the next 3 details cover the attachments of the 3 different types of metal decking provided for the project. And notice the hat height which separates the different types. We now see a special note to the approver of these drawings, which usually is the design professional team. The first X is the detail covering a typical composite concrete floor construction. Second X covers the deck support around a column. Third X covers typical floor and roof openings in concrete decks. Fourth X covers a small opening in floor and roof concrete deck. The fifth X covers bending of reinforcing steel requirements. 6X covers the perimeter concrete panel that attaches to the deck edge. 7th X covers the detail for soffits. 8th X covers the wall found for the planters. 9th X covers the area at a seismic expansion joint. 10th X covers deck edge at existing concrete wall. The 11th X covers deck closure plate. 12th X covers bending reinforcing steel at concrete wall using a special attachment. 13X covers typical installation of headed stud to deck and steel support. We see some more notes here to both the general contractor about the field installation and approver. And lastly is the information bar where the project, subcontractor, design team would be listed, plus the sheet callout number at the bottom right corner. Now we move to the second sheet providing information dealing with the metal decking. First X covers different scenarios for depressed deck conditions that are found on this project. Second X covers the SSDA slot moment connections. Third X covers again the bending of reinforcing steel with a different wall condition. Fourth X covers another soffit detail condition. Fifth X covers the window mullions attaching to the deck edge. Sixth X covers a soffit condition. Seventh X covers decking overhang when running perpendicular. Eighth X covers decking overhang when running parallel. Ninth X covers the perimeter concrete panel attachments. 10th X covers attachments located at seismic beams and drag strut connections. The 11th X covers tube steel spacer for slab support. The arrow takes us to notes once again for the general contractor and approver. We see the plan view sheet for the metal decking, and as with the design drawings, this view is like a bird flying over the project. First, the arrow shows us the sheet callout, which is the partial first floor. Then, as we have seen before, here are the grid points with numbers running one way and letters going the opposite, and where they meet is the grid point. Next is the north compass, and remember, if no compass is provided, north is always the top of the page. And now we come to the legend box plus notes. We see the legend box, and let's review the number items closer. Number 1 states, for general details and notes, see sheets D1 and D2. Number 2 gives the information for the deck material that is marked D2. Number 3 reveals top of steel for this floor, and remember, UN stands for unless noted otherwise. Number 4 indicates a symbol used for showing the headed stud count per beam. Number 5 indicates a symbol used for bent plate. Number 6 indicates a symbol showing the seismic resisting bracing. Number 7 indicates a symbol for the restricted Z-zone area. Number 8 indicates a symbol for the drag cord beam connection. And number 9 indicates when an asterisk symbol is placed by the metal decking bundle dimension, it means the deck needs to be cut in place prior to installation. The next legend box is for the span limitations of decking with no shoring. Here we see it's only for decking marked D2, and the decking is type 3W, gauge 18, used within a slab 3 1/4 inch thick using lightweight concrete. The star reveals the different span lengths when a single, double, or triple span is used. And now we come to the last information box found here, which is the note to the approver. And once again, these notes are from the subcontractor to the design professional team. And we see there are 2 different notes providing here, which are asking for clarification to foreseen problems. We move back to the plan view sheet to reveal a key item often misunderstood by many QC and QA professionals. We will take a closer look at this area of the floor. Let's start with the basics. There must always be some type of support under the metal decking, so we have 4 columns that will connect with 4 beams Here we see the symbol call out for the D2 type decking required in this section. And here's the bundle outline that is supported by the beams at each end. And this is the length of the bundle. Now we see the call out of 11 pieces, which means within this one bundle there are 11 single sheets of metal decking that will start here and connect together by its edge connection until they reach here. Let's look at another scenario, and we'll use this area of the floor. We have 8 columns. Plus 2 small columns out here on the deck edge. Now we have 12 beams. And now the arrows and dash lines will reveal the deck edge that actually separates the building into 2 different sections. Here is the first call out for deck bundles, the D2, and here is the bundle outline, with the bundle length being called out. Next is the second bundle outline, plus the deck call out D2, also the length. Now we see the third bundle call out, its outline, and the length. But we see the call out for 9 pieces of decking in this bundle. Okay, no problem. We just reviewed this. And they start here and finish there. Okay, that should make sense. But wait, we have this call out, which means you have 3 more pieces within this separate bundle that connects to the bundle we just saw and runs to the edge of the deck. With understanding the bundle callouts, how there could be individual sheets within a bundle, and knowing how to read the start and stop arrows, you will have a good foundation built to make sure the field insulation is complying with the design drawings. We have come to the end of the segment, and let's review the items we covered. First, we introduce you to what shop drawings are and how they really are a lot like the design drawings, but the one major rule is that the shop drawings do not override the requirements of the design drawings, unless you have written approval from the authority having jurisdiction. Second, we looked at the column found within the shop drawings, and after a moment of panic with all the information for fabricating just one column, you saw the detailed callouts within the elevation views found on the sheet that open up the path to simplified details. Then the third item was the beam also found in these shop drawings, and just like the column, you saw the specific dimensions that will align the beam in place for not only the erection purposes, but also the bolting and welding purposes. And lastly, we introduce you to the metal deck shop drawings. and you again see how they are very similar in style as the design drawings, plus while having the individual sheet or bundle information stated along with the orientation within a specific section. For this segment study material, you will need to take the provided PDF file of the shop drawings to your local blueprint company or store like Kinko's, Staples, etc., and have them print out the sheets which you will use to answer the provided plan questions. Second, then read How to Read the Construction Drawings, written by Elsvier Bookskat. Then, Plan Reading and Structural Drawings by Portland State University. And if any questions arise, email orangecountyyinspections@yahoo.com. When completed, move to segment number 11.